Welcome to another episode of the Family Twist podcast. This is one of your hosts, Corey, and today my partner and co-host, Kendall, continues his conversation with DNAngel Jennifer, who reveals the struggle she's been facing over the last 2 years since discovering her biological father. What makes this discussion even more riveting is the exploration on the flip side. How do children respond to unexpected requests from an adoptive parent or a biological one? It's about relationships, about family, about fears, and about expectations. Get ready to rethink what you thought you knew about family dynamics.
Yours is like mine. My parents, they weren't involved with other people when I was conceived, so in that respect, but for my family, it was the age thing. They were way so young. And then my mother has the stigma of immediately getting pregnant a second time. She kept my sister, Stephanie, but she gave birth to her 2 days before she turned 17. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, if people knew that there was a child older than Stephanie, that would be even more of a stigmatizing moment. So I get it.
Yeah.
But it's sad that this many years later that we're still kind of chained by those conventions. I'm 53 years old. Come on. I mean, when is it going to be okay? And it might never be for her. That's kind of what I've decided.
Yeah. I think maybe it never will be. And maybe the best that she can offer is to be okay with her other children having a relationship with you.
Yep. And that's pretty much what I've heard is that I won't mind if you connect with Kendall, that sort of thing, which is good news because my sister, her daughter, Stephanie, just took a traveling nurse position in Boston in the last 2 weeks. So she's coming, today's Saturday. On Monday, she's going to come and stay a couple of nights because she has a couple of days off. So it's just, to your point, when I met Stephanie, it was this automatic connection. We felt like we had known each other for years.
Yeah.
And I just adore her. And
yeah.
love having siblings. I was raised as an only child, but my father remarried after my mother passed away. And so I have stepsisters that I love very much and still feel close to, but it's different. You know what I mean? It's just nice to have a biological connection, like you said. My parents would sometimes be walking along when I was a small child, and they would run across friends that they hadn't seen maybe in years. And they'd be like, oh, and this is our son, Kendall. And people, I think it's automatic for people. Oh, yeah, he looks just like you, to my mom. And we would all three just chuckle because I'd always known I was adopted. I'd be like, that's sweet. That's cute. But I know I don't. It's
yes.
Right. I'm like, are you not seeing what we're seeing? So even from a really young age, I felt really comfortable saying, nope, I'm unique. I don't really look like these people, but that's okay. And my parents made me feel like that was okay. Like we didn't create you, but you're ours now. Yeah. Just wonderful people.
That's so special. That, I mean, just to be able to have that opportunity to find that confidence in, I know I don't look like them, and that's okay. They're still my parents.
Yep.
And I think you're right. People probably do. You see what, we've said it, right? You see what you think you see or what you want to see. I mean, I wanted to, I just keep going back. I lost 3 years because I was like, oh, it'll update. You want it to be what you want it to be. And my story, as far as you don't look like them or you look like them, is it was always, oh, wait, that's your sister? You guys don't look alike. Always. But that I was like, well, she's my half sister. That's she looks more like her mom, and I look more like my mom. We have the same dad. And I was like, you guys don't look anything alike. And then my younger sister, who I always thought was my full sister, turned out to be my half sister. My half sister moved into my stepsister. That's actually what made me cry. Was I was like, oh my God, I'm not related to her. She's
right.
And there's the difference. at 42, 43, I learned the difference of being family and being relative. Other than like they say your friends are family and your family's friend, like other than that, like cutesy stuff. And it's like, she's not my relative, but she is my family.
Right.
Very much my family. More so than my relative who said, no, thank you, not interested.
Yep. Well, you can never put yourself in the other person's shoes, right? But I can't relate to it. Just like, and that kind of describes my mother's other son, because my mother has my two half sisters and my half brother, and he's never been mean to me, but I text him and he texts me back. We've never spoken on the phone. I've left him messages. He's never left me a voicemail. I think it's that he's protecting our mother still. Like if she doesn't want to connect with me, then he won't. And I don't judge him for it. Whatever. That's his decision to make. I mean, he's a grown man. He's 48 years old. It's like you can do what you want. But it's hard for me to put myself in their place to think, how would I feel if I found out that my mother had a child years before I was born?
Right.
Whatever.
Yeah. I don't know how I would feel either. I like to think that I would be, well, when can I meet? I'm pretty sure that I would say, like, at least let me get in touch with her just to say, hey, I'm available. Sorry you're going through this, but I can be an ally, and then leave it. My son knows about the whole thing. My son's 25. He's an adult, but he knows about the whole thing, and he's just like, well, pop-up's my pop-up. And he couldn't really be less interested. He's not mad about it. He's just not interested. He's just not. And I told my husband and my therapist that I still have the hardest time wrapping my head around how it's been over 2 years since I've made contact with my biological father. And he lives an hour away and I haven't met him. My father that raised me, my dad, and my husband, I have every confidence in the men that I know them to be, that if they found out that they had another child, because a woman knows if they have other children, and men might not always know. And sometimes life brings surprises. And I have every confidence that if either one of them was to get a phone call that says, hey, I think you're my father, or I've proven that you're my father, that they would say, where are you? When can we meet? And then turn to my mother or to me and say, you can come with me or not, but I'm going. And it would be that. And for me to say, hey, can we meet? Can we meet? Can we meet? Can we meet? And have it kind of just go into this abyss. It's like,
I know. And I completely hear you, because I'm just built exactly the way you described your dad and your husband. And this does sound judgy when I say it, but I know myself, if I were my mother and I found out, or my father, and I found out they're Kendall, that's that kid that we didn't know where he was, I wouldn't have been able to go to sleep that night without at least trying to reach out. That's just who I am. Because I feel like, if nothing else, and I think what I love about the work that your organization does and Right to Know does, and it's that I deserve to be known. I don't need your approval. I don't need your support. I need to be recognized.
I exist.
And for me, that's what it's kind of about. I feel like I'm a nice guy. Like, what is there not to like about me? So why can't we give it a shot? You know what I mean? Like, that's kind of where I come from, but it's not about me. It really is about my mom.
And I think you really just hit on something that I don't think that I had put together. There's the flip side of this, where sometimes like the child, sometimes the child doesn't want to have a relationship with them. And the biological, we'll say father in this circumstance, but sure, sometimes it could be an adoptive mother, is like reaching out and saying, I want to know you. I want to meet you. Come to this family event. And then the NPE or the adoptee or the donor conceived person is like, I'm not looking for another family.
Right.
I just needed to know my medical history.
Right.
So sometimes it goes just reverse. And I think that's the hard thing to recognize is, one, there's no rule book. And two, like these dynamics can be all over the place. maybe it's not that she might not like you. Maybe she's afraid you won't like her.
Yeah. See that. I do. We joke, Corey and I, about I am the gay son, right? Maybe that's part of it. She does live in Southern Louisiana. You hate to stereotype. There are great people in Southern Louisiana that wouldn't be closed-minded, but I get the feeling that maybe she is. You know what I mean? So like it's complex, right? It's not
complex.
just,
And that's really, I mean, that's just all speculation.
It is.
All speculation.
Because anytime I ask my sisters, who obviously know our mother, they're like, well, I don't know. I don't know how, you know what I mean? Like, and I believe them. Like, I don't know that they know really what the reason is. Because from 2017, when I found them all, I'm a gift giver. And like that first Christmas, I like sent my mother a Christmas gift. I've never spoken to her. Sent it to my youngest sister's house. They presented it to my mother apparently. And she literally just picked up the gift, looked at it, saw that it was from me, set it aside, never opened it, never said, tell him I got it. Tell him never to send me another. Didn't acknowledge that it happened. And that's just kind of the way it's been. Not like mean about anything, but just not engaged.
Just can't go there. Just can't go there. I know. I mean, that's like my biological father, right? That it's just like, he just can't go there. He can't say no. Right. And he can't say yes. He just can't acknowledge it. If he gives it an answer, he's acknowledging it. And I can't help but wonder, is that a generational thing? I think that, again, that comes down to, we'll just never know. But I mean, it's something intense, and it saddens me, because I think it's a sign of just being in either pain or shame. And I certainly don't hold any anger, like in the slightest bit. I really don't.
Did your biological father know that your mother was pregnant?
That's a great question. If you find out, let me know.
Okay.
My mother said that she remembers, as if it was yesterday, that the two of them were walking through a local historic park. And the way she told the story, I honestly can't help but believe her, because it was so descriptive. But she said she remembers walking through this park as he was talking, and like completely distracted and gearing herself up. And then she finally blurted out, "I'm pregnant." And he said, "Well, that's not my baby." And she said, "Of course it is." And he was like, "There's no way." And that's the last time that she spoke to him. And then she said that she and my father ran into him a couple years later, after they married and my younger sister was born. She said, "This is my husband." Right. And we've got his daughter and 2 other kids. And he said, "Oh, well, that happened quick." As if, she said it was as if he completely forgot that I told him, you know. And so when I talked to him, when I made contact the first time on the phone, and I said, "This is the story," and he remembered my mom's name. He was like, "Oh, how is she?" And I was like, "She's good." Oh, like it was just not sinking in. Right. And I said, "She's good. She's good." And he's like, "Oh, that's good. So what are you calling about again?" And I was like, "Well, you're my biological father." And he said, "Well, why didn't she ever tell me?" And I thought, oh my God, because I knew she had hid this from me my whole life. And I went right back to, is this another, like, I'm trying to like save my pride here by saying I told him type of thing? So I took that to my therapist, and it comes down to, I'll never know the truth. No. But because I was like, there's no way that's something that you forget. No. And she said that is an incorrect assumption, because she said that if you get news that is that massive and you just suppress it for, I mean, almost 40 years. Well, at that time, it had been over 40 years. You can get to a point where your brain like just doesn't remember. And she's like, maybe it's deep in there somewhere, but she's like, you can absolutely just block it out of your memory. And I was like, oh my God. So she said that she thinks we'll never really know for sure, but my mom's story, that was pretty hard for me to not believe.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when I told my half brother, oh, not my finest moment, but I had reached out to him via LinkedIn, because he's not on any social media because he works for the government. I'd found him on LinkedIn, and I wrote up these are some of my matches. This is some of this, like just trying to prove that I'm not
Right.
like a hoax or anything.
Exactly.
And I said, and I don't want money. I'm not trying to do anything weird, but I just thought, you might want to know that I exist in case you ever need a kidney.
Hey,
It's
pragmatic. I get it.
Yeah.
Because
I was like,
that's,
I don't know what to do. So,
yep. It's kind of the way I feel about my mother's other son. Like, you just know where I am. You know what I mean? Like, just, and I know he could find me quite quickly, but it's just bizarre to me because I want to know everybody in my family. I may not agree with you on everything. And if you're a homophobe, we're going to have problems. But at the same time, I'm still your half brother. So it is what it is.
If you ever need a kidney, don't come to me.
Yeah.
You know?
It's bizarre. Gosh, family dynamics. I never expected to have them.
Right.
Corey and I always laugh about that because honestly, by the time I turned 40, I had kind of given up. I had tried every avenue I could try. It was a private adoption. I tried to have my records unsealed decades ago, and it didn't happen. And I registered with every registry that could possibly have matched me with even the siblings. And the funny thing is, my father's son, Chris, who's been on the show, he was trying to find me because my father had always been truthful. Well, almost always been truthful about the fact that I was out there. And so my stepmother knew I existed. My brother, when he found out, wanted to find me and tried. And even I don't want to say he'd given up, but we just kind of lose hope at some point.
It feels futile.
Like, yeah. It's like, well, okay, why am I beating my head against this wall? But ironically, 2017, my brother's wife got him his DNA kit for his birthday, and then, which is in February. And then my birthday came along in July, and Corey got me my DNA. It's so interesting how these things just meshed. It's I don't believe in fate or any of that stuff, but it makes me question, like, that feels kind of metaphysical. It's just the way it all came to be. But
yeah, so that's how you found your family, your biological family, from a half brother match.
Yep.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, I'll never forget that day, because when I put in my DNA, I hoped to find somebody, and I got the result. I was sitting in my office in San Francisco, and I got an email on my personal email on my lunch break, and it said, "Congratulations, your results are in." And I was like, and the funny thing is, when I had submitted the DNA sample, it told me it probably would take 6 to 8 weeks. And it had only been right at 3 weeks. And I was like, oh, they're just trying to sell me something. They really aren't like, they don't have the results yet. But I clicked into the email, which of course took me over to the ancestry.com site. And my joke about it is that I never remember passwords, but I must have really wanted to remember that one because I typed it right in, and bam, my brother shows at the top of the list. And he was smart. It just said his name. Like, it just said Christopher Clark. It didn't say that he was a man. It didn't say his age. It didn't say where he was, anything. And I just thought, what the hell? So I clicked on it. I sent him a note. I was like, here's what I know. My name was Scott White. I was born July 14th, 1970 in Little Rock. Here's my phone number. Let me know if that means anything to you, because you're my top match. 5 minutes later, he sent me a note back he's like, calling you now. My desk phone rings. I pick up the phone, and he's like, Kendall, I'm your half brother. And I just, to this day, it was just the most like, I'm 47 years old. I didn't think I was ever going to find anyone.
Yeah.
And suddenly found out my birth parents are well, I didn't know about my birth mother, but that my dad was living, that
Mm-hmm.
he went on to have 3 other kids. And then, so that happened on August 23rd.
Mm-hmm.
And it only took until Labor Day for Chris to keep bugging our dad. He's like, Kendall doesn't know his birth mother. Give us some clues to help us. 'Cause she has a very common
Oh,
name. And so we're like, help us find this
help
person.
us. Yeah.
And dad remembered that my mother, who had a sister 2 years younger in school, he remembered that she has a regular first name, but had a very unique, her name's Belinda, and her nickname was Binky, and everybody, including the teachers, called her that at school. And so when Chris called me on Labor Day, he's like, "Are you sitting down?" And I was like, "No." And he said, "I just found your birth mother." And he said, because all he did was type in my birth mother's name and Belinda Binky White, and the first thing that popped up was my dead grandfather's
There you
obituary
go.
that said that he had 2 daughters.
Yeah.
And while I'm talking to Chris, while he's telling me this, and I'm like bawling, I'm
Yeah.
on Facebook, and I'm not kidding you, Jennifer. In 5 minutes, I had found a Jackie who had a sister named Binky. I mean, and I knew, I'm like, of course that's who this is.
Right. Right.
And I could easily see that my birth mother had 3 other kids, and I just
Mm.
was losing my mind. It was bizarre and crazy. And that's when Corey gave me the advice, like, maybe you want to pump the brakes for a minute. And I'm like, nope,
Just
I'm not doing
breathe.
it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like a runaway roller coaster, right?
Yep.
It's like,
Yep.
if I stop, it's going to, like, I've waited too long. I cannot
Absolutely.
stop. I'm going. So just be
Yep.
here to catch me if I fall, because I'm going.
That's right. I know it's
Yeah.
funny because I immediately sent a Facebook message to all 3 of my siblings and and to my birth mother, who I could see hadn't been on Facebook in 2 years. So I thought, well,
Mm.
that's kind of a lost cause. And to my auntie, so my mom's sister, I could see all of them. And I know it was only 2 hours, but Corey said that I was going to pace a rut into the floor. I was like
Oh, yeah.
frantic for those 2 hours. And it only took 2 hours, but my baby sister messaged me back on Facebook, keeping in mind she did not know that I existed.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, I believe that what you're saying is true, because what I said was, you might not know I exist, but I think I'm your half brother. I was blah, blah, blah. I gave her the same details that I just said about what I told Chris. And she apparently was with my mother shopping at Labor Day sale shopping. And she said when she first got the message on Facebook, she was like, this sounds like a hoax. She's just turned the phone around and showed it to our mom. And she said, I almost had to catch her. She almost like fainted. And she said, Kendall, she didn't have to tell me it was true. She was like, it was real. And I knew that moment that you existed. And it was crazy.
Crazy. My gosh. I can just picture, I remember walking to the same thing, just wear a rut in the floor, because you can't sit, you can't stop. It becomes like a compulsion. You work so hard for these answers. There's so much emotion. And if you don't understand it, then I'm happy for you, because that means you've never been in the situation where you've tried to identify your biological parents.
Yep.
I'm happy that you haven't had to, because everybody who gets it gets it for a reason.
Absolutely.
So yeah.
Well,
those half sibling matches. So they come up, they could either be an aunt and uncle, a niece and nephew, or a half sibling. I mean, there's only so many options.
Right.
So we look at those and think, okay, what's the age? What's this? What's that? And start to work it out. Those are great matches as a search angel. Very rare. Very rare do we get a case with a match that high. But we had one person reach out and say, this person, I'm trying to find out who my biological father is, blah, blah, blah. And they share their DNA with us, and that's a match. And it's like, but if you don't know what you're looking at, you don't necessarily see it, or you're like so many of us where it's like, that can't be right. So we
It
just,
isn't what I've been told.
right.
Right?
Mom said his name was Joe and this
Right.
guy's name is Jack. So
Right.
that's not I don't know who this guy is type of
Exactly.
thing. So
Well,
we had all
right.
kinds of questions about that stuff. And then there's some hard ones too, but.
Well, I mean, my brother Chris said he'd always heard that
Mhm.
my name was Scott. Our father's name is Scott, which is why my mother named me Scott. And
Oh,
then her last name was White. And so as soon as he saw that, and
mhm.
he did, I don't think he knew that my birthday was July 14th, but when he
Yeah,
knew, it was like, oh, the summer of 1970, that's when
yeah,
Scott was born. Like,
yeah.
it just all made sense to him, and he
Wow.
really didn't question, especially since he was looking at the same result on Ancestry that I was. Like, oh yes, you show up really high on mine.
Mhm.
And he hadn't looked that day. He and his wife and their kids were on vacation,
Mhm.
and that's when it just happened that I looked and got my result. And he's like, oh my gosh, I've been checking so regularly, and I can't believe you found it before I did. Like,
Yeah,
I can't believe that you noticed and I hadn't noticed. And I was like, I get it.
yeah.
Unless you're waiting for a notification, you're not going to be on there all the time.
Right, right,
Yeah.
right, right. Yeah. But I'm so happy that you two found each other.
Oh, and now, I mean, and he lives in Massachusetts. So he's one of the reasons, of course, that we
Mhm.
moved here and got to see that. We didn't see them on Christmas, but we hung out with them the weekend before. It's
Mm.
just
Mhm.
going to have 0 siblings, 0 nieces and nephews, to having
Yeah.
6 half siblings and 13 nieces and nephews overnight is just crazy. It's
Yeah. Wow.
bizarre.
Phew. Right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's I mean, that just takes some time to let all that sink in, get the name
Mm-hmm.
straight, get the
Oh my
who
gosh.
belongs to who. Like
Yep.
you're
Yep.
kind of jumping in on the deep end.
Yep. And
Hmm.
Corey still uses my little cheat sheet for himself. He's like, I mean, the local people, of course, he remembered, but yeah, I get it. It's hard. And
Sure, sure.
yeah, it's fantastic. So,
Mm.
well, I hope at some point your birth father feels comfortable connecting more. And is he married to or whether he's married to the mother of your half siblings?
They're divorced.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
So it's
they're
not like
divorced.
she's holding him back from
No.
doing anything. Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-mm.
Hmm.
I appreciate it. We'll see. We'll just see what the future holds.
Mhm.
I am lucky to come from the family that I came from, in that I don't feel anything other than confused about
Mhm.
why we haven't met yet. But I'm not like I never had a dad. I really
Mhm.
I need to know you, and
Mhm.
I'm okay. I've got a great support system and all that, but we see that that is not always the case with some of our cases that come in. And
Unraveling these threads has undoubtedly been both enlightening and heart-wrenching. We've seen the wallpaper of Jennifer's life peel away, revealing a mural of resilience and courage underneath. Jennifer's story underscores the significance of understanding our roots and shaping our present and future. Regardless of the shocking revelations we witnessed today, it's vividly evident that family, with all its surprises and secrets, paves the path to self-discovery and self-understanding. As we culminate today's episode, remember that our journey with Jennifer isn't over yet. In the final installment, we'll be shifting on to another exciting and life-affirming facet of her journey, her collaboration with DNAngels. How has Jennifer used her personal experiences to help others navigate the labyrinth of genetic mining? It's going to be a riveting exploration of what it means to take one's life challenges and use them to bring light and hope into the lives of many others. I promise this is an episode you don't want to miss. Until then, let's remind ourselves the search for truth is a journey that is both rewarding and challenging. But ultimately, the journey is what really matters. So remember, stay brave, stay adventurous, and stay tuned, because family secrets are the ultimate plot twist. The Family Twist podcast features original music by Cosmic Afterthoughts and is presented by Savoir Faire Marketing Communications.